Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining me for this presentation. I'm Tim Dobson, CEO of Magnetite Mines, and I'm here to present our value proposition as a company. So we've spent the last couple of years restructuring our board and management to be timed for the development of the Razorback iron ore project in South Australia. Now, the timing of this project's development is critically aligned with the decarbonisation of the steel sector. Our project is very large. It will produce an extremely high grade of iron ore that will be essential for the decarbonisation of both domestic and international steelmakers in our region. The timing of our DFS is underway. We are already getting strong interest from potential strategic partners, and the South Australian government, where our project is located, is also highly attuned to this opportunity and is repositioning its policies around a green steel agenda for the future. So, given the year that we've just come through in the capital markets, we find ourselves with a low market cap and a great position for new investors to come into the stock right at the right time for this story to play out in the development of our project. We've developed a company with a very strong, well-credentialed board aligned with the mining sector and M&A and corporate governance. And we've also got a very strong team both here in Sydney and in Adelaide, where our head office is, and our project office to develop this project. The steel sector is going through a massive once-off transition. It's a growing industry, always has been and always will be. There's no known substitute for steel, and in fact more steel will be needed for the energy transition into the future. But unfortunately, the steel industry is also one of the biggest polluters in the world, producing up to 8% of global carbon emissions. As a result of that, right back to the Paris Accord and through all successive COP meetings since that time, steelmakers have all come to the table and made carbon reduction mandates for themselves, and we are seeing that they are now acting on that, making investments in new technologies that will be able to decarbonise steel, that will need products such as we will make. So this graphic shows exactly how that will play out. At the moment, along the top of this graphic, we can see the steel industry uses blast furnaces and coking coal to make steel relatively cheaply, however, with a very high carbon footprint. To turn that into green steel, the only known technology that's been commercialised to date is to use electric arc furnaces. You can see that they're on the right-hand side as we go down the chart, and then to use direct reduced iron inputs and scrap inputs into those electric arc furnaces, which are run on renewable energy. And then finally, we get down to the bottom, which is the end game. That's to use only hydrogen and not even natural gas to do the reduction part of steel making. So this means that we can go all the way from iron ore through to steel without using carbon inputs. And that's what we call green steel. The key enabler is on the bottom left. Very high grade of iron ore is needed for this new technology to work. It cannot run on low grades of iron ore that are currently used in the steel sector. And this is where our Razorback product comes to play. It's what we call DR grade, direct reduction grade. And if we look at the outlook for DR grade materials, we can see that by 2050, there's going to be a big yawning gap between the supply and the demand in the market. That's clear on the chart on the left, produced by Wood Mackenzie, only in the last 2 to 3 weeks. On the right-hand side of the chart, you can see that the top left-hand corner is rarefied atmosphere. This is where DR grade lives. It's a very high grade of iron on the y-axis and very low level of impurities on the x-axis. We've plotted our project's concentrate grade on this chart, and you can see that we're well within that box, as opposed to most of the other iron ore production around the world, as we can see, does not meet that specification, that very high grade specification. So, turning now to where we're located in South Australia. As I mentioned at the start, this project is in South Australia. It's very large, and it has caught the attention of the South Australian government. These magnetite resources have been known about for years and in fact decades, but only now has the economic viability come to the fore, based on premiums that will be paid for DR grade concentrates. And in fact, as we can see on the right-hand side of this chart, we see a great opportunity for value adding in the state of South Australia, taking those concentrates, turning them into pellets. That's a value add and achieves a higher level of premium. and then using the green hydrogen that this state will produce and has made a commitment to producing, and in fact being a leader in producing, to turn green iron ore into actually green iron for HBI, hot briquetted iron, for transport overseas. So these are the obvious and logical value-adding steps that we can see going forward. The state government is now forming a strategy around that will result in policy to support this decision. Looking at our project, we're 240 kilometres northeast of Adelaide. This photograph shows exactly what our ore body looks like. It's actually outcropping. These ridges are ridges of magnetite. We have 6 billion tonnes in mineral resources, and we have 2 billion tonnes of those in this actual ridge in the foreground that you can see, which is the Razorback Ridge combined with the Iron Peak Ridge in the background. There's 2 billion tonnes already defined in probable ore reserves. This is a soft siltstone hosted magnetite ore, very different than the West Australian hard rock magnetites, and as a result has a much lower input energy cost in terms of grinding. You can see here where the project's located, where it's called out Razorback Iron Ore Project. We've got a second tenement base off to the east in the same iron formation. It's called the Braemar Iron Formation. That's the Mustard Dam project with a further 1.5 billion tonnes in mineral resources. We're 50 kilometres from an open access railway line. This is critical infrastructure that already exists. We don't have to build our own railway line to get this product into market. That's a critical feature of where we're located. And we need to bring in high voltage power from the renewable energy grid that the South Australian government has built over the last several years. As you can see, we have two port options. Whyalla is an existing port that's running, or they're both existing ports, but Whyalla is an existing iron ore port that's actually already transporting iron ore off to global markets, and where there is capacity for our product to come through. Port Pirie is an even closer port. It's an operating port in an industrial town, and we see that as a logical location where the value adding will take place into the future. The economic viability of our project, we've tested that with Wood Mackenzie, who created a value in use cost curve. So this brings all of the world's iron ore production onto a single cost curve. Our first stage capacity at 5 million tonnes will be located in the second quartile in terms of costs. And as we go up to 10 million tonnes as the logical expansion stage, it will pull us down through the economies of scale into the first quartile. So a very viable economic proposition for this project and the concentrates that it will produce. We also know that having a very strong, robust foundation for ESG is essential for the project and the company that we want to become. And we've created our own brand for sustainability. We've called it Foresight, and we're already delivering key projects around stakeholder engagement into that, and also identified the appropriate assurance standards and disclosure standards pathway that we will follow so that we're aligned with our customer base, which is, of course, downstream steelmakers into the future. So we've had a very strong and robust attention to our ESG platform. We're halfway through DFS studies now. If you look to the left of this diagram, you can see a series of technical and also approvals and other works that we've done in the last year. Looking forward now, we need to get our mining lease proposal in. We're planning to do that within the next 3 to 6 months, secure water supply, port access, and through to the completion of a DFS. As I mentioned at the start, we've had strong support from strategic partners in this project. So I spend a lot of my time in discussions with strategic partners. These are steelmakers and trading groups ahead of the steelmakers. We have a data room open at the moment. We have 10 participants in that data room as we speak, and are progressing their due diligence as we move towards transactional discussions. So just in summary, looking at our company and its value proposition, the timing of this opportunity is now, because the decarbonisation tailwind has now generated the demand for the product that we will produce, and that's into a decarbonising steel sector. Our project is large and it's in an extremely good location in South Australia. We're progressing it to development through a definitive feasibility study, and right now is a very good time to get into our stock, given that this year's capital markets have been closed and has resulted in us being timed right now with a very low market cap, that we will increase the gap between our market cap and our project value over the coming year with some new announcements. So thank you very much for listening, and have a great day.